Hey, welcome back. This is His Word Unveiled. We are in the book of Nehemiah. Guys, this book is so perfect for application right now in our lives. It seriously reveals the same techniques of what the enemy used in the book of Nehemiah. He uses the same techniques now, how the enemy attacks. And we are given the perfect example through Nehemiah's life of what it looks like to be devoted and faithful and focused on the Lord, on what He calls us to do, on the work of the Lord and His charge of our loving Him with all of our hearts, with all of our souls, with all of our minds, all of our strength, seeking Him with all that we are. In that is how we can be obedient. Not necessarily even these specific callings, which yes, the Lord lays out, and it is so important for us to see those, for us to inquire of the Lord in what those are so that we can continue to walk out in obedience. But we've got to see this overall. What is obedience? What is God calling me to do? What is my purpose? And that is to know the Lord, to connect with Him, to build our faith, to build our lives upon Christ alone. That's what we're called to do. And we see that in Nehemiah, that he is called to come and help Israel build their faith up, build these walls around so that they can have these walls of faith and truth that surround them, that keep all that is profane, all that is coming up against their faith, against the truth of God, to keep those things out. This is so powerful as we read this, to see the power of focus, the power of seeking the Lord, the power of prayer, the power of knowing our God, knowing what He's called us to do, knowing our purpose, knowing who we are. There's power in that. There is life in that. And that is the one thing that allows us to press on. That understanding, that seeking out, that standing on His word alone, standing upon Him as our foundation. So good. So let's get into this. Let's read more about the story of Nehemiah. What we're covering today will be Nehemiah chapters 5 and 6. So let's go for it. Hit that pause button. Read those 2 chapters like you are so stoked to know more of God, because we will see more of Him. We will know more of Him. And this truth will empower us to truly walk out, just walk out in faith, walk out in connection with the Lord, just every step of our practical everyday lives. This is it. This is good. This is personal application right here that we can read, we can grab a hold, we can walk out. So let's do that very thing. Nehemiah chapters 5 and 6 will be what you read. I'm going to pray. We're going to get this thing started, and we are going to allow Father to unveil His heart to us. We are going to bring glory to the Lord in our obedience and our passionate pursuit of Him, just being purposeful and knowing who God is. So let's go for it. Nehemiah chapters 5 and 6. Lord, we love You. We give this day completely to You. We pray that You just come in and You soak us with Your truth. You soak us up in Your righteousness. Just allow us to be absolutely full and consumed and just poured out upon in all that You are, Lord. We want that much of You today. We want to be swept away with Your faithfulness, swept away with Your goodness, and we want Your truth to lead us out, to lead us on, to take us deeper. Father, be here and meet with us. Lord, we choose not to waste a single moment. We want all of this to be wrapped up in purpose, so that every step we take, every decision we make, every thought that we have, Lord, that it's full of purpose. It means something, and it draws us closer to You. Father, thank You for being the one drawing us in. Thank You for the way Your truth just brings us in. Lord, we love You. We love You, we believe You, we trust in You, and we give this time solely to You. Just have Your way in us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, Nehemiah chapter 5. So this chapter, it's going to be a quick recap. In 4, our very last chapter we hit, this last video, we talked about just more of the attacks of the enemy and what that looked like, that the enemy calls us out and says, you're too weak. Even if you continue this, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to accomplish anything. You're going to fail. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough to come up with all this, calling them out. And we see Nehemiah just continuing to pray. He doesn't approach the enemy. He doesn't directly go against them and say, hey, you know what you said, it kind of hurt my feelings. What you said, it wasn't right. You shouldn't be doing the things that you're doing. Nehemiah wasn't concerned with getting back at them or letting them see that they were wrong, or helping them understand how badly they hurt Nehemiah and the Jews. Nehemiah wasn't into that. He had one focus in mind, one focus at heart, and that was to be obedient to the Lord, to continue finishing these walls, to continue just pretty much, in a sense, working on his relationship with God. That's what he remained focused on. And we read seeing the power of that, how that really, where that took him. We saw the understanding of living offensively and defensively, not being caught up in stopping our pursuit of the Lord to deal with things that are coming up against that relationship with the Lord. Nehemiah, it said that those who were working on the wall, that they also had a weapon in hand. It was two things. They were setting up that wall of defense, that wall of truth that was keeping all the lies and the assaults of the enemy out, so that there could be movement within, so that they could build themselves up upon the Lord, so that growth could happen, so that they could hear God and be free to praise and be free to seek him, be free to move in him. So good. So chapter 5 takes us in kind of a small little shift here where there's an understanding of what's going on in the people. There's an outcry of the people, for some of them being the ones who are being abused or oppressed, that they are speaking out and saying that some other people of Israel, especially the nobles, the leaders, are charging interest. They're exacting usury, is what we see in verse 7. So you are exacting usury each from his brother. So calling them out about this, and this is what's going on in the people. There are so many of the poor and oppressed that have all of their vineyards, their lands taken from them because they haven't been able to afford it, because of this interest that the nobles are charging against them, that they are out for selfish gain, that they are abusing this whole system, abusing their position, abusing the fact that there are those who are poor and struggling, and all of this greed, all of this that is taking place. Seriously, just taking advantage of the poor of the land. So Nehemiah calls them out, is grieved over what is happening, what is taking place, even in the midst of his trying to lead, his trying to do this work for the Lord and in the Lord and seeking out the Lord. And how frustrated do we get when we're moving forward, we're doing the right thing, we're seeking God, and we have all of this going on around that we have to take care of. All of this that we have to deal with, all of this that people are coming up against us. And that's frustrating when it's like, why is all of this going on when I'm trying to do what's right? Why do I have to, deal with all of this? And why can't you guys see what you need? Why can't we just move forward as the body of Christ and just be kind and love one another and go after God with one heart and one mind? It gets lonely and it gets frustrating when we're trying to do the right thing. Yet all of this is going on, but it doesn't stop Nehemiah. Nehemiah calls them out. He holds his assembly while they continue. He's not saying, you know what, look, we got to take a break on this. And we're going to deal with this. We're going to focus on this for a little bit to kind of bring us all together, bring us in one. Nehemiah is not concerned with that, but it is an issue, and he calls them out so that they can be aware of it. We see in verse 12, then they said, we will give it back and will require nothing from them. We will do exactly as you say. So I called the priests and took an oath from them that they would do according to this promise. So all the people are saying, yes, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to be kind. We're going to give them back their property. We're not going to charge interest anymore. They're in this. And we see at the end of verse 13, it says, and all the assembly said, amen, and they praised the Lord. Then the people did according to this promise. So this would have been so easy for Nehemiah to just look past, to say, you know what, you're fine, get over it, just get strong and just do what I do, and let's just follow after the Lord. No, Nehemiah came in, he saw a sin that was happening, he saw what the people were doing, he called it out, they responded. And they responded because the amount of time that Nehemiah has been focused on the Lord, seeking the Lord, praying to the Lord, being obedient and moving forward in all that God's called him to do, he is actually practicing this. He's not just speaking these words. He's not just appearing righteous before the people. He's walking it out. He's actually living empowered in the righteousness of God as he obeys, as he remains focused, as he denies all of these attacks and just moves forward. And because of this, it's this natural, authentic way of everything that he does. So dealing with this and approaching the people on this, it just comes out in a humble, authentic way where the people are able to respond. So good. It's so powerful in those small ways. We have no clue the power and influence of our lives as we just, as we continue to just remain focused on the Lord, not trying to be good, trying to be righteous, just live in it, just seeking after God. That's it. That's what Nehemiah was about. So it goes into then Nehemiah just holding fast to his integrity, not abusing the food allowance that the king had given them, not using it for selfish gain, not being greedy, not focusing on any of those things at all, any of this petty stuff, any of this just everyday stuff. Nehemiah was focused on one thing, and that was continuing to build the wall. In verse 16, actually, we see at the end of verse 15, it says, "But I did not do so because of the fear of God." So what he's talking about is this whole, I didn't pay attention. I didn't use this for my benefit. I didn't use this selfishly. All of this provision, all of this food allowance, all that the king had blessed us with and provided for us with. It says, I did not do so because of the fear of God. I did not use this for my benefit. Then in verse 16, it continues. It says, I also applied myself to the work on this wall. So not only did I deny all the drama going around and all these opportunities that I could lift myself up, but I remained focused on what God called me to do. I remained focused on the work of this wall, knowing his purpose, standing on that, moving in that. Therefore, success, victory, they're Nehemiah's. Okay, verse 18 then, there at the end it says, "Yet for all this I did not demand the governor's food allowance because the servitude was heavy on my people. Remember me, O my God, for good according to all that I have done for my people." So Nehemiah calling out, seeing God as the righteous God, and saying, again, he held fast to his integrity and what he did and how he lived and how it was real and how he remained focused and how he remained faithful and devoted to the Lord. Nehemiah said, remember me in this, that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going for, that he is relying on the Lord to be his defender, to be the one providing for him, to be the one blessing him, that he's not concerned with what other people see. He is calling out to the Lord and saying, God, remember me. I'm doing this in you because I believe you, because I trust you, because I'm seeking after you, because I desire to obey you. That's what Nehemiah is about. So good. He remained focused on simply building the wall, not benefiting himself, nothing about himself, not lifting himself up. So that's very important to understand that at the end. Again, this concept of not rushing through, huge to pick up on that. This whole conversation with Nehemiah and the Lord and his making a decision, having to make a decision. And okay, why am I here? Why am I doing this? What am I after? What are my goals? Is it for me or is it for the glory of God? So with that, this takes us into chapter 6, and this is huge. Now when it was reported to Sanballat, Tobiah, to Geshem the Arab, and to the rest of our enemies that I had rebuilt the walls, and that no breach remained in it, although at the time I had not set up the doors and the gates, then Sanballat and Geshem sent a message to me saying, come, let us meet together in the plain of Ono, but they were planning to harm me. So, bringing this all in, here's what's going on. The enemy finds out that Nehemiah is not backing down, that he is continuing to build walls, and they are just about finished, other than, he said, I had not set up the doors and the gates. So he is almost there. These walls have been built up, brought together, but the doors for these gates have not been put in. Now, the enemy now, seeing this, hearing this, they all of them are getting very, very desperate, and they're like, we've got to do something. So what they do is they invite Nehemiah to come down and meet with him. But Nehemiah knew, with his discernment, with his connection with the Lord, the Holy Spirit lets us in on what's going on. He allows us to see things, to know things. He stirs things up in our spirit so that we can move, so that we can walk out empowered, knowing with this understanding, God doesn't lead us into these situations where we'll be deceived or where it seems right. God will let us know as we connect with him, his spirit becomes louder than our flesh. Therefore, he allows us to see. He shines those lights. He allows them to flash and say, danger over here, or this isn't right over here, or steer clear from this, or be guarded in this situation. That's the importance of our being connected with the Lord. If we're not meeting with God, if we're not spending time in his presence, if we're not getting to know who he is, then we're out on our own. We're operating out of our flesh. And there's nothing good, nothing powerful, nothing strong, nothing insightful and discerning in that. We've got to allow the Lord to lead us. And right here, but they were planning harm to me. Nehemiah knew this. Verse 3, so I sent messengers to them saying, I am doing a great work, and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? So the enemy is saying, hey, come down and meet with us. Nehemiah, he sees this. He knows what's going on because he is familiar with his father's voice. He knows and he hears. And he says, why should I stop this work? Why should I stop something that my God called me to do? Why should I stop seeking the Lord to come meet with you? Why should I do this thing and come meet with the enemy when God has got me right where he's got me? When he is calling me to fulfill this, to complete this, to finish well. Not just do a whole bunch of really good things and then say, oh, you know what? I deserve a break. I've done so much. Look what I've done. No, Nehemiah is saying, I am in this to finish this. I am in this to the very end. We should be in this, living this life to the very end. Till we take our final breath. We should be in this seeking God like it's a matter of a life or death. That's how we should be in this, that I am not stopping, I am not slowing down, I am not being distracted, I am not turning aside until I have completed, until I have run this race as hard and fast as I can to get to the Lord, until I have known Father as much as I can, know as much as I can about who he is. I'm not slowing down. It's a daily pursuit. I'm not storing up all of this so that I can step back and say, okay, you know what? I've done well. I've read a lot. I've learned a lot. No, it's every day that we're not slowing down. Nehemiah says, why should I stop this work and come down and meet with you? Verse 4, they sent messages to me 4 times in this matter, and I answered them in the same way. Love this. I love this. Just they keep coming back. They keep begging. They keep, trying to pull me away. But Nehemiah said, I answer them in the same way. Why should I stop this work? Why should I stop this work when this is my purpose? This is my calling, to know God and to be built up in him, to grow in him, to see and to encounter more and more with him, more experience, more just walking out, more putting my hands to work and glorifying the Lord, more finding myself in him. Why should I stop? Verse 5, then Sanballat sent his servant to me in the same manner a 5th time with an open letter in his hand. In it was written, this is huge, guys. It is reported among the nations. This is what the letter says to Nehemiah. It is reported among the nations. And Gashmu says that you and the Jews are planning to rebel. Therefore you are rebuilding the wall, and you are to be their king according to these reports. You have also appointed prophets to proclaim in Jerusalem concerning you, a king is in Judah. And now it will be reported to the king according to these reports. So come now, let us take counsel together. Okay. This is absolutely huge. We have got to see what this is. We've got to see what the enemy is doing and how he does this now. He uses this technique with us now. Now, going back to the last chapter, at the end of verse 5, we saw that Nehemiah was so confident in who he was and how he was walking out and being a man who was holding fast to his integrity, not thinking of himself. He is not out lifting himself up or glorifying himself, that he denies any opportunity, any temptation that there was to lift himself up, to benefit himself selfishly, to abuse any of the provision, any of the blessings, to run with it. He said, God, remember me, see me in the way that I'm continuing to remain focused on you. This was huge. This was something that he walked out with personally with the Lord and standing against his flesh and continuing to move forward in this focus, in this passion, in this just walking out this obedience with the Lord. Now with this, and the enemy sees those decisions. When we say no to him, when we say, you've got nothing on us, and Satan, he comes at us in those same ways, yet in a deceptive way. So what he does now is he saw that Nehemiah stood his ground in that situation. He then had Sanballat, and these enemies were ganging up against him. Nehemiah wouldn't even entertain the first 4 times of their coming and saying, hey, meet with us. Come away. Just come away for a little bit. You deserve a break, or you deserve this. That's what the enemy does. Bringing about these distractions, doing whatever it takes to pull us away from the work of God. That can look like a whole bunch of different situations too. That could be That could be just busy schedules. That could be our saying yes to all of these appointments and these good things that we're not necessarily called to do. And pulling us away from really being intimate with the Lord, really just personally meeting with God and simply reading our Bibles. Yet we say yes to all these things, and we've got to keep them and we've got to do them. And the enemy is elated, saying they're being distracted, they're being pulled away. Even this idea that we brought up and hey, I've done so well, I deserve a break. I can just, I can get away for a little bit and not really get in the Word today. I just need a break. I just need to clear my mind. Guys, that is a tactic of the enemy. He will do whatever it takes to pull us away from these moments of opening up the Word and being purposeful and saying, God, we just want to see you. We want to know you more. Pulling us away from intimate prayer time. Pulling us away from just praising, from just being still in Him. The enemy will do whatever it takes. So he gave these messages saying, hey, come meet with us. Nehemiah said, nope, not a chance. This fifth time then, the enemy comes and writes a letter and says, hey, we heard, there's this rumor going around that you're doing these things, that you're trying to lift yourself up as king, that you're rebelling, you're planning to rebel. That's why you're building the wall. And the enemy comes in this sense of, hey, we care about you. We care. We don't want this bad name, for you to get this bad rep. And this rumor's going around. So why don't you come meet with us and we'll help you, clear up this misled statement. We'll help you wipe away this rumor that's going around. But we want you to be aware that people are saying these things about you, that this is getting around, that you're doing this, that you've got this rebellion planned out, that you're lifting yourself up. We know this isn't true. We know you, Nehemiah. So meet with us and we'll work together and we'll talk this through and we'll come up with a plan that will allow people to see the truth, that they'll know the truth. Do we see this? That this is what the enemy is doing. This is what Sanballat is doing in sending this letter, where Nehemiah wouldn't listen to them before. But now let's throw in something that's really important. Let's throw in those personal situations, those personal intimate times that Nehemiah had with the Lord, where he stood his ground, that he remained faithful, that he turned against selfish gain. And the enemy is saying, hey, let's go in and hit that. Let's hit that really intimate nerve. And let's lead him to believe that people are saying that he is out for selfish gain, that he has done these things to lift his name up, that he is turning away and turning against and out for himself. So the enemy comes in, hey, we care. We don't want this rumor to go out. Come with us and we'll help you. We'll help clear this situation up. We'll let everyone know the truth. We're after the truth. That's what the enemy says. Comes with his lies and his deceit and says, we're after the truth. So let's think about this. Let's ponder on this. Let's come up with a strategy ourselves to clear all of this up so that truth can be known, so that people know what you're really about, so that people know who you really are. The enemy tries to make it about us. The enemy tries to get us to lift ourselves up and say, you know what? Yeah, if people think that if I'm sinning or if I'm acting this way, it's going to hurt my testimony. That means it's going to hurt the Lord. Guys, do you see the subtle way that the enemy comes in? Do you see how easy it would be for him to slide in and cause us to be so focused on ourselves? But we know the pattern of Nehemiah and what he's been focused on is the Lord, is finishing well, is remaining with God every step of the way until it is completed. Building ourselves up in the Lord, remaining focused on knowing Him so that growth can happen, so that something real can be lived out, so that this purpose can be walked in. That's what we learn about Nehemiah. So with this, let's check out Nehemiah's response. Verse 8, then I sent a message to him. Such things as you are saying have not been done, but you are inventing them in your own mind. Verse 9, for all of them are trying to frighten us, thinking they will become discouraged with the work and it will not be done. But now, O God, strengthen my hands. Guys, this is it. Nehemiah doesn't get anxious. He doesn't get like, oh my goodness, what are people thinking of me? He doesn't get, oh, I need to clear this up so I can preserve my testimony. I can help, keep the name of the Lord, like who He is, so that people, that they know, that I'm sure they know. Nehemiah simply calls the enemy out. He says, this is a lie. What you're saying is wrong. And in the discernment that Father gives him, in the discernment that he receives because of his connecting with the Lord, because of his walking out with God, because of what he has invested in and his time in being obedient and seeking the Lord, then this discernment, this wisdom, this patience, this just confidence and boldness, his authority that has been given to him because of that pursuit of the Lord, that he displays that to the enemy. And he says, what you are saying is wrong. You are full of lies, and I am not paying attention to what you are speaking to me. He simply calls the lie out, and then he prays. Then he prays, but now, O God, strengthen my hands. Then we see even more of the enemy. The enemy sees this, that he's not being shaken. Nehemiah's not budging. He's not entertaining it at all. He's continuing. He's moving forward. He's focusing on the Lord, on these things of just being eternally minded. Nehemiah's killing it. The enemy sees this. So then he hires this man out who is confined in the temple, and this man reaches out to Nehemiah and says, hey, Nehemiah, hear what's going on? They're trying to kill you. Why don't you come to the temple, seek shelter here so that you can be safe? Because what God's doing in you, this is huge. This is huge, and you've got to be able to finish this. But if you're dead, you're not going to be able to finish. If they come at you to kill you, what then? What's your life going to look like then? What are you going to be able to do in the Lord then? So come seek shelter. Hide here until it settles down. Man, the enemy does that. It sounds good. It looks good. Yeah. What good am I going to be if my life is taken from me? How am I going to continue being obedient and doing the work of the Lord? Guys, God is not interested in our, he doesn't need us. He speaks to us and gives us opportunities to encounter more of him, to be blessed by him. His desire is for us to have a desire to just work connected to him. But just like Philippians, and my life verse being, for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. We can't be so focused on our lives, on our happiness, on our living, on our doing this. Our focus needs to just be, God, your will. May your will be done so that you will be glorified in everything that is done. And the enemy comes out and says, your life is precious. You gotta be able to be alive to do these things for the Lord. And again, Nehemiah sees what's going on. He sees that this is a tactic of the enemy. Verse 11, he says, but I said, should a man like me flee? And could one such as I go into the temple to save his life? I will not go in. Then I perceived that surely God had not sent him. But he uttered his prophecy against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He was hired for this reason, that I might become frightened and act accordingly and sin, so that they might have an evil report in order that they could reproach me. See, Nehemiah, he wasn't a priest. He wasn't allowed to enter into the temple. And he discerned, again, because of his connection with the Lord. This discernment just doesn't come on anybody. We've got to be seeking the Lord. And through that, who God is, it's poured upon us. In that discernment, in that wisdom, in that peace, in that truth, all of that then flows from us. Nehemiah was able to discern this. And he said, look, the enemy is after me. He's after me and trying to distract me. He wants to bring fear into my life so that I become afraid, so that I pull away from what God is calling me, that I pull away from the truth of what God says to do, that I pull away, that I become fearful, and I get distracted from the truth of who God says he is and who God says I am. Guys, we cannot give in to fear. There is no fear. There is no fear in God's perfect love. If we're being fearful, then we have stepped out, then we're entertaining a little too much of what is not of God. When we are fearful, we can claim scriptures upon our lives, upon those situations, saying, when I am afraid, I will trust in you. Psalms 56:3. We can speak those scriptures. When I am afraid, I'm going to turn to the Lord. I'm going to know that I'm getting away from the Lord in this fear. I can feel it, but I need to jump back into the Lord, jump back into his love, jump back into his peace. And Nehemiah did that very thing. He discerned what was going on. And in this just Nehemiah is saying, I understand why they're doing this. They're trying to frighten me. They're trying to pull me away. And then verse 15, this is so good. So the wall was completed. Because in this pattern, because of what he was focused on, he continued in building this wall. And building his life of faith in the Lord. That's what God calls us to do. Don't worry about what's going on. Don't worry about what the enemy is doing. Don't worry about what the world is doing. Don't worry about what they're saying about you. Don't worry about what they think. Don't worry about how they're coming against you. You just seek me. That's what God is calling us to do. And Nehemiah responded beautifully to that calling. Verse 16, when all our enemies heard of it and all the nations surrounding us saw it, they lost their confidence, for they recognized that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. Nehemiah called out the law, or called out the lie for what it was. He called it out. He said, you are lying, you are doing this, you are trying to distract, you are bringing about fear. He stood on what was truth. He chose to focus on the Lord and to move forward into what he was called to do. Through all of this, he remained focused, and he was blessed with strength and wisdom and discernment and protection and peace. God had him through it all as he sought after the Lord. His obedience and perseverance brought such blessing, and that blessing extended to the surrounding nations simply by recognizing that God is great and mighty and unstoppable and all over this situation. For they recognized, it said in verse 16, that this work had been accomplished with the help of God. May we live our lives in a way where people aren't saying, look how great they are, but that they look at the situation and say, there is no way that they could have done that or that could have happened without the hand of God all over it. And people will recognize that as we remain focused, as we deny the assaults and the lies and the fear tactics of the enemy, as we deny those, and we continue building this wall of truth and faith up so that they are shut out. All of that is shut out, and all that is good is all the goodness of God, all of the movement of God, all of the protection and the peace and the power and the wisdom of God being that movement within. So absolutely good. Okay, so finishing up then this chapter, it gives a little, the last 3 verses talks about Tobiah and how so many, it just gives kind of a little what happened even through this process, that through this, as the enemy came up against Nehemiah, it kind of lays out that there were so many people who were approaching Nehemiah and saying, dude, Nehemiah, this guy Tobiah, he's a really good dude. Like what he does, what he's done, what he's accomplished, what he's about, he is a great guy. Like he does this really well and that really well, and you should listen to him. You should pay attention to him. And it just brings about more of this pressure, more of this weight, more of the voices of the world. That the enemy will use, specific people to come against us, but we've got to be aware. We have got to be guarded, not only those specific people, but the people around, the people defending even them. That these voices were heard, hey, Tobiah's great, and hey, he hangs around with Sanballat, so they must be great, and what they've done, you should listen to them. You should pay attention. Nehemiah, maybe you're off base. Maybe you should, you should pay attention. Maybe you should go meet with them. Maybe you should just sit down and listen to what they have to say. We have got to remain focused on the Lord. That's what Nehemiah, the story of Nehemiah, his life is teaching us. We cannot listen to the voices of this world. We cannot be bogged down. We cannot allow this weight to enter and to start just pushing this weight upon us, listening to the voices of the world. We cannot, because sometimes those voices sound legit. Sometimes those voices sound really good. Sometimes those voices sound comforting. We have got to remain focused on the voice of truth. And the voice of truth alone. Because when we are focused, then victory is ours. When we connect with the victor himself, then there is no stopping us. And the name of the Lord is lifted up. It's not about us accomplishing anything. It's not about us arriving at this level. It's not about us showing all of our enemies how great we are and that we are right. It's not getting them to understand. It's just being focused and believing that life lived being focused and seeking after God, that is life. That is the only life. That is the only way. And in that we encounter wisdom and strength and protection and peace and all that life is. So good. We've got to remain focused on the Lord. And we see the results of that by reading about the life of Nehemiah. So good. May we stand on that. May we stand on truth alone And may we never be distracted. May we never be slowed down. May we never be pulled away from our pursuit of the Lord. So good. Thanks so much for walking this out with me. I'm loving Nehemiah. There's so much more ahead. So keep up with me. Keep journeying. Let's keep growing. Let's keep glorifying God. Let's keep allowing his heart to be unveiled to us in the most beautiful, powerful ways. Thanks so much for walking this out with me. I'll see you soon in my next video.